Hi, this is Dar Williams, and you are listening to the Your Morning Coffee podcast with my friends Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart. Weekly music news for the new music business.
From Kristin Robinson at Billboard, what do the Suno and Udio licensing deals mean for the future of AI music?
And an op-ed from Gene Simmons of KISS for the Washington Post. Congress, please close radio's music loophole.
And from Millie Giles over at Sherwood, Spotify Wrapped 2025 is here, and it's more vital to the company's bottom line than ever. Well, Jay, it is good to see you. It is episode 279, and we are going to start the show right about now.
Stand by for transmission.
This is London calling.
Wake up! The revolution is at hand! Your morning coffee is on the air. On the air, on the air, on the air, on the air, on the air. Standing by. Your morning coffee, the weekly music news for the new music business. It's the highly curated, agitated, advocated, moderated, and liberated digital music information that you need to know. We are your digital music authority. And now from our studios in Hollywood, California, here's your hosts, Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Your TV is lying 'cause the world ain't on fire, and the only thing burning gets me higher, higher, higher. I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it. Ooh, this life is really whatever you make it. There's so much good in the world for the taking. Yeah, just take a look at the sky up above. All that matters is love, 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 love.
Well, I do like that song. That was the Zac Brown Band. I Ain't Worried About It from the new album Love and Fear, out now, featuring guest appearances by Dolly Parton, Snoop Dogg, and Marcus King. Where
Right.
will you see those artists mentioned together?
Yeah, we had an incredible conversation with Zac Brown at Billboard's LA podcast studio recently for the Behind the Setlist podcast. Check that one out. It was a fantastic conversation. We did a deep dive on the new album, songs he's performing at the Sphere, which, by the way, I'll be seeing his show at the Sphere tonight in Las Vegas. Looking forward to that. He actually wrote this album with the Sphere in mind. He'll be there 2 weekends this month and 2 weekends next month. Thank you, Zac Brown.
That should be fun. And that's your first trip to the Sphere, yes?
It is, yeah.
All right. This Friday, Jay, I know you're a Swiftie.
I am.
Taylor Swift is finally releasing the documentary from the Eras Tour. Starting this Friday, Disney Plus will premiere the 6-part documentary series, The End of an Era. 2 episodes of the docuseries will arrive this Friday, followed by weekly releases, and I've just seen the trailer, and god darn, that looks pretty cool.
It looks really good. I had the pleasure this week to do an event for Grammy U. I'm a mentor with Grammy U from the Recording Academy. The LA chapter of the Recording Academy put on this really cool mentorship mixer at their LA offices this last week. I was on this panel that was moderated by the lovely and talented Julia Kirsch. Some of the panelists were Felicia Fant, from Amazon Music, Karen Kwok from Warner Brothers Records, Sean Haydorn from BMG, who, by the way, brought me the new Cheap Trick vinyl for All Washed Up. Thank you, Sean. This event really highlighted the value of mentorship through conversations about networking, leadership, career development, excuse me. And I got to meet my new Grammy U mentee, Bradley. She's awesome. Looking forward to working with her. It's a fantastic program, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it again this year. That's the Recording Academy's Grammy U.
That is awesome. Very cool. A few things in the news this week. This is from, by the way, Bruce Houghton over at Hypebot. Spotify offers context to Hypebot's stream share payouts post. So Spotify reached out to take issue with Hypebot's reporting on the Spotify's Substack, The Truth About Streaming Payouts.
Spotify's post took, quote, a closer look at the actual math behind real music royalties, end quote. It reiterated that there are no per-stream rates and how its stream share payment model actually works.
Right. So Hypebot said our conclusion was that the truth about streaming payouts explained well how payments work and why, from their perspective, are fair, but it still did not address the real problem, earning a living, that most musicians and songwriters face.
Yeah, the spokesperson for Spotify offered these notes on the Spotify explains why there's no per stream rate. Artists and industry push back. So they say that, on our contention, this is Hypebot talking here, that stream share payments continue to reward the biggest act. Spotify countered with, loud and clear, that's their report, that data shows a broad shift. The number of artists making at least $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, and $1 million plus every year on Spotify has tripled since 2017.
Yeah, well, Spotify went on to say listening is far less top-heavy. The top 40 tracks now account for about 2% of streams. That's down from roughly 20% in the pre-streaming era.
Right. Spotify pointed out that streaming removed physical constraints, allowing tens of thousands of more artists to earn royalties who previously couldn't reach an audience. And with the topic stream share inherently rewarding only superstars, consumption has become dramatically less top-heavy, according to Spotify.
And again, according to Spotify, mid-tier, niche, and regional artists now build sustainable fan bases that weren't possible when radio could support 40 songs and record stores could carry only a few thousand artists.
Right. So explaining the system, it overlooks the improvements that are underway. So according to Spotify, we've strengthened AI and rights protection, royalty modernization policies, and self-serve tools like Marquee, Showcase ads, Discovery Mode, and native ads, all accessible through Spotify for artists, not just those with major label resources.
And Spotify continued, these are designed to grow the overall payout pool and broaden who participates. So Hypebot pointed out, Spotify made artist income their problem. It could be argued that musicians earning a living is not really Spotify's problem. But as the largest player in the music discovery and consumption, Spotify has a vested interest and responsibility to help solve it.
Right. Spotify founder and CEO Daniel Ek clearly agrees when he wrote, quote, that's our mission, to unlock the potential of human creativity by giving 1 million creative artists the opportunity to live off their art and billions of fans the opportunity to enjoy and be inspired by it. Professional creators must be able to earn a fair living doing what they love, where monetization is at the core of the creative proposition and not an afterthought.
Yep. Well, thank you, Spotify, for adding more clarity. Now the real work of helping creators begins. Well, before we get to the big stories, Jay, I'm going to say we thank our sponsors. We certainly appreciate their participation every week, including Hypebot. Since 2004, Hypebot has chronicled the new music industry and trends and technologies that are changing how music is discovered, consumed, marketed, and monetized. It is edited daily by founder Bruce Houghton with help from Jeremy Young. Hypebot is published and supported by live music discovery and marketing platform Bands in Town.
That's right. Bands in Town. Now over 100 million live music fans trust Bands in Town to get personalized concert alerts, recommendations, and messages from their favorite artists. It's the #1 artist services platform connecting over 700,000 artists with their super fans. Managers, labels, agencies, and artists access their own dashboard to manage and promote their tour dates to over 4 billion music fans across all platforms.
Wow, that's a big number.
That's a big number.
And every week I get to hang out with that guy right there, Jay Gilbert, music industry consultant, curator of the weekly Your Morning Coffee newsletter, and former executive with Universal Music, Sony Music, and Warner Music Groups. And would you put $1 in the slot machine for me when you go to Vegas this weekend?
Yeah, I'm not a big gambler, but I'll put a buck
Neither am
down,
I.
and if I win $1 million, I'll give you your dollar back. And I do this podcast every single week with my good friend Mike Etchart, longtime host of Sound and Vision Radio, formerly of SST Records, Warner Music, Capital EMI, and Universal Music Group.
Right on. Well, Jay, let's jump into the stories.
Yeah, we have some great stories this week. The first one is from our friend Kristin Robinson at Billboard. And the headline was, what do the Suno and Udio licensing deals mean for the future of AI music? So as Suno and Udio sign these licensing deals, questions remain about the quality of their models, competition, and other AI remix tools, and much more.
Over the last month and a half, Suno and Udio, two top AI music creation companies, have had a change of heart. Both services create impressively realistic songs at the click of a button and have become villains to much of the music industry over their alleged use of copyrighted music to train their models without a license or compensation for artists. The three major music companies even banded together to sue them for copyright infringement in $500 million lawsuits filed this last summer.
Now, after fighting that suit for over a year, Suno and Udio are coming to settle with some of the majors. Udio, often considered by music professionals to be friendlier to the music industry than Suno, went first, announcing a licensing deal with Universal Music Group and another soon after with Warner Music Group. In what is seen as more of a surprise, Suno followed by announcing a licensing agreement with Warner Music Group during Thanksgiving week. By the way, UMG's suit with Suno is ongoing, while Sony has settled with neither one.
The two deals are notably different. Udio's requires it to pivot its service from one that can create new music in seconds based on text prompts to becoming a fan engagement platform where users can play with licensed music in a variety of ways, like remixing, mashing up, or prompting songs in the style of a certain artist. To control what is produced using Udio's 2026 model, the service is now a walled garden, meaning none of the creations can leave the platform.
Yeah, and then Suno, on the other hand, doesn't have to pivot what it offers users. The only differences to the platform under the agreement with Warner come 2026 will be that the works it trains must be licensed and users will have to pay to download the tracks they create. Because of the differences between the agreements, Suno is viewed as getting the better deal of the two companies, music and AI experts tell Billboard.
So what do these new deals mean for the future of AI music? Well, Kristin says, while the announcements so far create the start of a framework for a system in which music rights holders get compensated for their work, the two AI firms have a lot to do to reestablish themselves as licensed music companies.
Right. She goes on to write that, importantly, all of the deals so far have been quote-unquote opt-in, meaning artists and songwriters represented by UMG and WMG will have to individually decide whether or not they want to license the rights to these AI companies. For Warner Music Group CEO Robert Kinsel, this was on his list of non-negotiables when working with AI companies.
While this allows artists and songwriters a lot of agency, it puts Suno and Udio in a tough spot. Many songs, especially modern pop and hip-hop hits, have anywhere from 1 to 10 or even more songwriters who have played a part in making the song, and often these songwriters are signed to different companies, some of which will not have had deals with Suno or Udio. It will be an uphill battle to clear many of the most valuable hits, because even if one songwriter declines a song's usage by Suno or Udio, the entire song will be disqualified.
Yeah, Kristin writes that as part of these agreements, Suno and Udio have vowed to eventually retire their current models, which are allegedly trained on the world's catalog of music without any license, and to launch new models next year trained only on licensed work. This raises important questions. Let's say Suno, for example, still only has its Warner deal by the time it needs to retire the current model. Do the model's impressive abilities get degraded? Wholly owned, wholly licensed songs by artists and songwriters who decide to opt in from Warner Music Group alone may not be enough to create a model just as good as the one before it.
So Suno's supposedly better deal might also hold it back from securing other music licenses in the near term. Even if licenses do go through with the other majors, artists and writers signed to those companies might be more nervous to opt their works into it than with Udio, given the commercial potential of them leaving the platform. The majors' lawsuit against Suno and Udio made it clear that one of their primary concerns is that AI music will compete with human-made creations in the marketplace, including on streaming services.
Already, Deezer estimates that 50,000 fully AI-generated songs are delivered to its site every single day, and that 97% of people can't tell the difference between AI and human-made works. AI-enabled artists like Zania Monet, Breaking Rust, Velvet Sundown, and others have already hit major milestones, including debuting on various Billboard charts, and in some cases, amassing millions of streams.
On the other hand, with these deals, the flood of AI songs onto streaming services will likely slow down, which will surely be cause for celebration in the music business. But it might not be enough of a relief to make the other music companies and the artists they represent feel ready to start working with Suno.
Yeah, Kristin goes on to write that Udio's willingness to pivot will likely make it easier for the platform to finalize licensing deals with music companies, but from a financial standpoint, Suno seems better positioned to succeed in the coming years. It recently secured $250 million in Series C funding, whereas Udio has only publicly disclosed a fundraise of about $10 million. According to Suno's investor pitch deck obtained by Billboard, the AI firm also claims to have 1 million subscribers already, which is up 300% year over year.
Wow. So Udio also faces new difficulties by joining an already crowded race to become the premier destination for AI-powered music remixing and fan engagement. Hook, Mashup, Spotify, and Clay are all pursuing variations of the idea, using generative AI to give fans the chance to rework songs they love. Still, little is known about what Udio, Spotify, and Clay's take on the idea will actually end up looking like, so it's possible these services will be differentiated enough to coexist.
Right. Altogether, the deal suggests that Suno may have a clearer runway moving forward, but in both cases, lingering uncertainty will make it unlikely for most, artist, label, publisher, or any other entity, to throw too much of their weight into this fast-changing AI music arena.
Those who have tried to wade into AI music already are experiencing the precarity firsthand. Suno-powered artist Zania Monet learned this the hard way. Monet, who signed a multi-million-dollar record deal with Halwood Media, just went from charting on Billboard's adult R&B airplay chart to getting her songs pulled from many airwaves across the U.S. last week due to iHeartRadio's new Guaranteed Human policy that bans AI music that features synthetic vocalists pretending to be human.
Broke Records, Ezekiel Records, and AAO Records song I Run by Haven, which admitted to using AI to process the song's vocals, also faced challenges when the viral song, whose vocals closely resembled UK artist Georgia Smith's, received dozens of takedown notices from Smith's team. Ultimately, the song was removed from streaming and social platforms multiple times and omitted from the Billboard and official UK charts. Since then, Haven decided to redo the vocals, this time with no AI involved.
So far, nothing is set in stone in these early days of AI music. Whatever the reality of the space is today, it could all shift tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, this stuff is so crazy and moving so fast. And if you haven't seen that story about iHeartRadio banning anything that wasn't human made, make sure you check that out because there's huge ramifications for that.
Indeed. Our next story is Congress, please close radio's music loophole. Gene Simmons for The Washington Post. Gene Simmons, of course, is the bassist and co-lead singer of KISS.
Right. And so Gene writes this op-ed, and he starts it off by saying, I've been a member of the hard rock band KISS for more than 50 years. In that time, we have entertained millions of fans around the world and sold more than 100 million records.
But Gene says, I still remember our first gig in front of fewer than 10 people at a club in Queens. It paid just $50. We loved the experience, though, and that encouraged us to take creative chances. With our platform boots, black and white face paint, elaborate outfits, and pyrotechnics, we eventually broke through.
Yet, for all the success KISS has enjoyed, I worry about the challenges facing the next generation of recording artists. My own children, Sophie and Nick, are successful musicians in their own right, but the obstacles they face are much different from the ones we had to overcome. Chief among them is the broken radio business model. When KISS started, radio stations offered publicity for up-and-coming artists. Consumers would hear a song on the radio, and if they didn't like it, they could change the station. If they did like it, they might go buy the album.
Gene says local radio stations offered music for free and made their money by running advertisements. It was a fair trade for local stations and artists looking to make it. That's not how it works anymore. Listeners are more likely today to discover new music on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, or TikTok. At the same time, more and more local stations have been bought up by big corporations like iHeart or Odyssey. They still play music without paying artists, often hits that listeners already know, in order to generate ad revenue. But almost no one listens to the radio today and then buys an album because they hear a song they like.
Gene goes on to write that in 2024, those radio corporations made almost $14 billion in advertising revenue. Artists got nothing, not a penny, from the radio giants that use their music. It's past time for Congress to fix this. After all, the public airwaves belong to the American people, not the corporations who use them to make money. Every other music delivery platform, streaming, social media, cable TV, they pay artists for the use of their work.
So Gene asks, why do radio corporations still get a pass? He said on Tuesday, following the Kennedy Center honors, I will testify before the Senate about a bill that would force terrestrial radio corporations to compensate artists fairly. The American Music Fairness Act will close the radio loophole and finally compel these companies to pay performers for the music they use. The legislation will protect small independent broadcasters, those not owned by huge corporations, while generating hundreds of millions of dollars in new economic activity.
Yeah, Gene goes on to say that, that could make a real difference in the lives of artists who are trying to make it in the music industry, as well as thousands of backup singers, musicians, sound engineers, and others who you may not know their names, but whose effect are essential for bringing an album to life. They deserve to get paid fairly for the work they do. Under this bill, they will, because it would require broadcasters to pay performers for terrestrial radio play like they already do on the digital side.
Gene says Republicans and Democrats might not agree on much these days, but they should agree on this. Every American who works hard deserves to have that hard work rewarded with fair pay. He says, I'm confident that if Congress sends the president this bill, he will sign it into law. After all, this is the same president who signed the Music Modernization Act back in 2018 to update copyright protections for the digital era. The same president I've known for decades, long before he got into politics, is someone who appreciates not only art, but the artists who make it possible.
Right. So Gene Simmons will be testifying before Congress with our friend Michael Huppy, who is the president and CEO of Sound Exchange. And we wish them all sorts of luck. And just for those who don't know, in the United States today, the performer does not get paid when the song is played on the radio. They do pay the songwriter. So on the publishing side, there's money that's made, but not the performer. And I always use the example of I Will Always Love You. Dolly Parton wrote that song, but Whitney Houston made it really popular, and it got a lot of airplay, and she didn't get paid a penny for all of those millions of plays on the radio. So we'll be watching the story really closely. Before we get into our last story, we covered a story last week about Hayley Williams from Paramore and how she sort of took a different approach with this tour using a company called Openstage. So I reached out to our friend Rob Abelow, who's been with Openstage now for, about a year. He's the chief product officer. And I sat down with him to not only discuss Hayley Williams and how she used Openstage, but, what they're doing with Oasis and Radiohead and many others. Let's listen in. Rob, good to see you again. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So first, I'd like to sort of touch on what Openstage does and your work with Hayley Williams on the recent solo tour.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, for some background on Openstage. So Openstage is a fan data and loyalty platform that helps artists take back control of their fan relationships and their business. So the way we look at it is, the fact is most artists really have no idea who their fans are or how to reach them. The data is scattered across tons of different platforms, social, streaming, ticketing, and merch, you name it. Very hard to get a complete view of these fans, let alone reliably reach them when you want to. And we believe that makes it really challenging to run an efficient artist business, to be self-reliant, and to ultimately deliver the best experience for those fans, because it's just kind of this blast to everyone. Everyone gets the same thing. I don't really know who I'm interacting with. So Openstage aims to fix that. We do that by helping artists consolidate all of their fan data into one place so they can see a 360-degree view of all of that fan's behavior. Helps them understand what's working, what they should do next, who their biggest fans are, and then really understanding their true demand. We help them interact with those fans on their own branded surfaces directly. So never any algorithms. It's not someone else's platform with their profile picture on it, but it's fully theirs. We look at it as we power the artist's platform. And then we help them reward their fans with access and personalized experiences around their entire ecosystem. So that means not just on their Openstage page or their community, but fans interact with artists at all those places: ticketing, merch, streaming. So how can you help make those experiences artist controlled and better for the fans?
I think there's been such a big disconnect, Rob, in the past years of social media and streaming, of not being able to really have that relationship and quote unquote own your fans.
That's exactly it. And that's kind of the language we use, right? It's like own the fan relationship, right? It shouldn't be, mediated by third parties who kind of try to benefit off of the unreliability of reaching them or the separation of giving you that data, right? Like you need to work on owning that. And I think it's always been important. I think it's more important now than ever, because of the way, social media is so much less geared towards engaging with your followers and is much more like this viral slot machine of hoping I could reach new people. Still lots of value, but you need a more reliable way to talk to your fans. And also we build careers now from the ground up rather than top down marketing. And so you need to have that relationship.
I like that viral slot machine. I'm stealing that.
Please do. So kind of an extension of that is what we did with Hayley Williams, and kind of taking, knowing your fans and their fan behavior, interacting with them in your own way, and then how can you reward them with access, right? So what she did is something that we are now calling a ticket unlock. And it puts artists in full control of access to their shows. So fans have to register directly with the artist for an invite-only sale. And that could be sometimes for all of the tickets, which it was in Hayley's case, and it was in Radiohead's case. And sometimes it's for a portion of the tickets, basically a pre-sale. And fans have to come through the artist's front door, completely customized to look like them. For Hayley, it was like she has this awesome Windows 95 aesthetic going for this album cycle. Like every little corner, like even the button rounding and font was like that. And when you got the email verification, it was all like her world, not Openstage world, with her on top of it. What we do when those fans get registered is we validate that these fans are genuine people, not bots or scalpers. A bunch of different ways that we do that. And then artists can use a bunch of different levers inside of Openstage based on fan profiles and fan behavior to determine who gets access and in what order to the invite-only sale. So some examples there. So for Hayley, she said every single validated fan, we want to give them a ticket unlock and give them, a chance during the invite-only sale. For Oasis on the Live 25 tour, which we started with about 50% of tickets, and it ballooned up as the tour went on and they saw how powerful this was. they basically ran a lottery after fans ticked off certain requirements, right? And what they did was they reduced it. So if you got a ticket on lock, you were basically guaranteed to get tickets to the on sale. You weren't competing. For Radiohead and their recent comeback dates they did, or return dates, we essentially built an algorithm with them that was weighted to proximity to each show to give you a better chance of getting tickets, because they wanted to cut down on travel and have a more green tour. And if you got a ticket unlock, you were essentially guaranteed a ticket. And another really cool one was on Bad Bunny's Puerto Rican residency, where he did 21 shows in Puerto Rico. Every fan was validated. He knew every fan in the room. And he added a late 22nd show to this, where we made sure you had to be a resident of Puerto Rico, and we knew that you weren't able to buy tickets to any of the other shows, because he wanted to get like as many Puerto Ricans a chance to get in the room if they didn't. And I feel like these things really kind of show you what you can do if you put, like, the artists know their fans, they can govern these things, and they can really design a really, really good fan experience to whatever they think makes sense. And really what we've seen is it leads to a lot less scalping, better prices for fans that artists are taking a higher percentage of at the end of the day, and a much better fan experience. It leads to a lot of the artists capturing meaningful fan relationships that kind of help them in the moment, and then also can compound for what they have to do down the line for the next tour or whatever comes next. So for Haley, she saw so much demand in real time. And through the tour intelligence we have on this, she saw, what cities the demand was in, where those people lived, other information about them. And she actually added doubles and triples and new markets before the sale even went live to try to meet that as much as she could. And she built, and like they all kind of have, built a massive pool of direct relationships they can reach and reward. So for us, we did a bunch of these as kind of betas. You always want to be doing beta tests with the biggest tours in the world: Oasis, Radiohead, Bad Bunny, Lana Del Rey, and then this Haley one. But now we have it launching as a wider product this next month to many more artists.
That's really impressive. These are some of the biggest tours on the planet. Where can our listeners learn more about Openstage, and how can they sign up?
Yeah, the best way is to go to openstage.live and sign up or request a demo, and our team would be happy to show you how it all works.
Awesome. Rob, continued success. Good seeing you again.
Thanks so much, Jay.
So that was Rob Abelow. Check out Openstage. They're doing some incredible work, and they're helping some of these artists to really own that fan relationship. Our last story is from Sherwood, and the headline is Spotify Wrapped 2025 is here, and it's more vital to the company's bottom line than ever. As rival music services launch end-of-year recaps, keeping listeners loyal is crucial to Spotify's long-term profits.
Right, if you spent the year publicly panning the new Taylor Swift album, but streaming it on a loop behind closed doors, the season of reckoning is finally upon you. Spotify Wrapped is officially here, Jay.
Yeah. Last Tuesday, as Apple Music rolled out their rival summary called Replay, not to be confused with YouTube's Recap or Amazon Music's brand new feature called Delivered. They all dropped last Tuesday. Spotify took to social media to tell users that Wrapped is quote unquote on the way before releasing it on Wednesday morning.
Right. So music to your years. While the streaming giant's viral feature has spawned countless imitators, including Reddit, Merriam-Webster, and the Empire State Building, none come close to the splash that Wrapped makes each year.
Yeah, by the way, they have Wrapped for creators. So podcasters like us, we can go in and do sort of the same thing. And it was really fun to see, the Your Morning Coffee podcast, in 59 countries, and, how we're growing our audience. And so if you're a podcaster or you listen to podcasts, check that out as well. But looking at Google Trends data, searches for Spotify peak every year around the time that Wrapped goes live. That's late November, early December, with searches for Apple's Recap, and that had a slight uplift as well.
Since its 2015 launch, Spotify Wrapped has only gained more online traction with each iteration. When it was released back on December 4th of last year, The volume of queries for Spotify were up 150% relative to the 2 weeks before. And though you might only see your social feeds inundated with top 5 lists, posts related to Wrapped provide invaluable brand visibility for Spotify.
Yeah, but with the competition in music streaming space mounting and Spotify's ever-rising subscription prices making it the costliest service of the bunch right now, how do these ultra-personalized roundups translate to business for Spotify? Well, as we've noted before, Spotify relies heavily on its premium users to make money. Indeed, the record user numbers that the company reported in fiscal year 2024 was instrumental in turning its first ever full year of profitability with a net income of $1.2 billion, and its third quarter results for 2025, they were no exception.
So while paid subscribers currently notch only 2/3 the amount of ad-supported users, this cohort drives almost all, about 94% actually, of Spotify's gross profit. However, in contrast with Apple Music, which doesn't have an ad-supported tier, Wrapped is available to both paying and non-paying users.
Yeah, keeping the feature available to all listeners unlocks 446 million additional leads for free Spotify marketing. But just like last year, when certain features of Wrapped were kept only for paid users, Spotify will likely gatekeep some elements once again, particularly with AI-powered features, including reports on 5 of your most notable days of listening, taking center stage in this year's edition of Wrapped.
For Spotify, it's all about music driving layers, stories, and connection, and gently nudging those millions of ad-supported users who can't stop listening to Bad Bunny to fork out $11.99 a month. Well, there you have it. It is very cool, though. Really amazing and interesting information there. So it is time to wrap up the show. On behalf of my good friend Jay Gilbert, thanks for listening. We certainly appreciate it. If you do enjoy the show, please tell just one friend. And of course, big thanks to our sponsors, Hypebot and Bands in Town. We certainly appreciate their participation. Music by Licorice Quartet. So, have a fabulous week, and Jay and I will be back next week on the Your Morning Coffee Podcast.
You've been listening to Your Morning Coffee, the weekly music news program for the new music business. Join Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart next time for the digital music news you need to know.